Today I'd like to talk a little bit about brain injuries. On the practice area portion of the website, you'll see a picture of a depressed skull fracture with insult on the brain. That's a very, very easy case to prove to a jury. You put the x-rays up, the CT scans, and it shows the injury. A much more difficult type of a case is where people have a moderate or mild traumatic brain injury or damage. And that can happen from less than a fracture of the skull. You can be in an automobile wreck where you hit your head on the windshield or steering wheel, or just by whipping back and forward very quickly, your brain, which is like jello, is caught up and damaged on the inside of what they call the bony protuberances of the skull. And that can cause microscopic damage. And why is that important? It's important because the brain is probably the most important organ in your body, and when you have microscopic damage to it, it changes the function of how you operate. It can change your cognitive ability, it can change your physical ability, and it can change your emotional ability, depending on which lobe of the brain has been affected. Oftentimes, doctors who treat the person won't even recognize it right away. The person will be in an accident, and all of a sudden, the family, it's almost like they've died. It's like they're home and it's a completely different person, and the family's at a loss as to explain why until they get to the right experts. Generally speaking, a neurologist will over time refer that person to a neuropsychologist. And why is a neuropsychologist important? Because they're trained to give that person tests which show if that person's brain is functioning correctly. And it's all about brain function as opposed to actual changes in brain structure. The CDC and the National Institute of Health have come up with criteria for moderate, mild, and severe brain injury. It's well recognized in the literature that people can have brain injury with negative CT scans and negative MRIs and negative EEGs. It takes much more specific testing like a SPECT scan, which is oftentimes expensive and out of the reach of many people. But more importantly, it takes highly trained professionals like neuropsychologists and a team of professionals to get that person through this injury. Many people recover. I think the literature is as high as 90% within 2 years will, for all practical purposes, recover. But it's that 10% or 15% of people after 2 years that continue on with symptoms of physical problems, cognitive problems, and emotional problems that have a real problem and need a lawyer who's been trained in the traumatic brain injury cases. So I think it's important for you to recognize it's a very specialized field. Not a lot of lawyers really know about traumatic brain injury, and you must choose a lawyer that has been schooled in that regard. Thank you.